Welcome back. As beginners, we're often told to study master games to, to learn more about chess, but most of us, especially me, have neglected to do that very often. Anyway, I didn't start until just a few weeks ago, and I'm trying to get a variety of different chess masters, and in this case, I have chosen Judit Polgar with the white pieces versus Fabiano Caruana. This is from the 2014 FIDE World Blitz Championship held in Dubai. In case you're curious as to where I find these games, this one I found on chess.com/games, and I'll try to remember to put the link to this particular game in the description. Okay, let's get right to it. In this game, Judit Polgar was playing with the white pieces, and she opened with e4, as many masters do, and Caruana opened with e6 rather than the full e5. Perhaps he was trying to throw a wrench in the machinery due to playing a blitz game, or maybe he was very comfortable with the French defense, which I'm pretty sure that's what this is called. If I'm not mistaken, it invites white to go ahead and take full control of the center by playing d4, and then black will play d5, offering either the exchange French, in which these two pawns capture each other, or the advance French, in which the pawns become locked on these four squares. I don't play the French. That's just what I've seen. But she does play d5 and d4, and he plays d5. And does she take or advance? She advances. Okay, I don't know which one's better. But I do understand both of their plans. White is trying to occupy and control the center, which is one of the primary opening principles that I've learned over the last year and a half. And black is basically trying to do the same thing. Occupying one center square on d5, controlling one, and with e6 guarding this pawn, and together with white's pawns locking this area. So they almost have equal control of the center, although white has a bit more space. What does she play next? I don't know what the best move is here, but if I had to guess, I would go with a normal developing move, like knight to f3, which helps to protect the d-pawn. Well, I guess it protects both of them, as well as looking at this square and I suppose preparing to get this bishop out and castle. I guess another option might be c5, which chips away at black's center. Let's see. Oh, sorry, it was black's turn. Wow, I was way off. I should put that in the blooper reel, but I probably won't. Okay, yes, Polgar has played the last move, and it was Caruana's turn. Okay. Well, he can't play this right now because the pawn's guarding that square, so maybe he would chip away at the center with c5, which we already saw due to my mistake. Okay. Now, I don't know what white's supposed to do here, but I'm going to guess knight to f3. Okay, c3. That makes sense. Helping to protect the pawn that's just been attacked, although knight to f3 would have done that as well. It just would have protected it with a knight instead of a pawn. And here, I guess, the pawn might be better, because you'd end up with the exact same structure. If they captured, you would still have a pawn on d4. So I guess that makes sense. One downside, I guess, is that it blocks the normal development square for the knight. Don't know. Okay. What does Caruana do? Usually when you play a c-pawn that far forward, you want to put a knight behind it. That's pretty often what happens. Okay, I understand that much. Because, again, we're doing basic opening principles. Developing pieces. This knight controls center squares, or at least puts pressure on them. Now does white play this? Knight to f3? Okay. Controlling the same two squares. Both knights are looking at d4 and e5. This pawn is pointing at that as well. These two pawns are both pointing there. Now white is one move away from castling, which I suppose puts white in a slightly better position. And I'm trying to learn to evaluate positions without the engine. Let's see. It's black's turn now. What would I play if I were black? It's not time to take this pawn yet, because again, white has more defenders on it. So if they took, I mean, white comes out ahead on that. I mean, and white has the queen pointing at that square too. So does black move a bishop and a queen in an attempt to castle queenside? Or does black start moving these pieces out to castle kingside? Let's see what happens. I see queen b6 suggested in a lot of my evaluations, and I'm not always sure what it does. Now, if this bishop had already moved, I see that it attacks this pawn and the trapped rook behind it. But the bishop is still here. I guess that queen puts more pressure on this pawn from behind. But they still have, if they take, yeah, they're not going to come back in with the queen because, again, the white has an extra defender on it. So, not sure exactly why that's good, or if it's good. Okay. If I'm white, do we bring this knight here? Or do we go ahead and get the bishop out in preparation for castling? I'm not sure. Let's see what Judit plays. Okay. What does a3 do? Because the knight wasn't coming here anyway, right? Because the c-pawn was already there guarding that spot. So that move doesn't prevent something from coming here. The b-pawn wasn't about to come there because its own queen is in the way. Is it preparing b4? Is that what that is? I'm not sure about that because black has 3 pieces guarding b4. Not sure. Well, let's see. It's black's turn. Caruana plays f6. That seems... That's the one you always don't want to play because it opens this diagonal, right? I understand here you're looking to chip away at this pawn. This e-pawn was controlling both of these squares, and here, if you don't take, well, if you don't take and he tries to take back, then white gets a knight in there, or the other pawn. Huh? I'm not sure about that. But if you do take, obviously the knight can take back, and that helps black get ready to castle. I get that. Is it time to turn on the engine just out of curiosity? Let's do that. Is that... Okay. Let's see what Stockfish has to say. Stockfish is saying bishop to d3. I don't know about that. I think here, I don't know that I've ever been in this exact position, but I think here I would worry that playing bishop to b3 would just invite c4. I don't know. Bishop to e2, that's what I was suggesting earlier in preparation to castle. That kind of negates a lot of white's pieces being on this side and trying to break through here. Once you've castled, then the king isn't open to any of this stuff here. Okay. And b4 is the third next move. What does Polgar play? b4. Okay. So she was preparing b4 when she played a3. But again, doesn't black have more here? What does white do? I mean, black. Okay. And that's exactly what I would have expected him to play if you had put the bishop on d3, as Stockfish had suggested. But I don't know. The computer says they're pretty close to even right now. And that kind of puts this b-pawn that you just moved here pointing at nothing. I guess it prevents the knight from coming in this way. Okay. Maybe this is normal for French structures. I really don't know because, again, I haven't played the French, and I'm pretty sure I haven't played against the French. So, not sure. Stockfish is saying bishop to e3 is okay. Bishop to e2 is okay. Knight to b2. They all stay pretty close to equality here, but black has a very slight advantage according to the computer. It looks like white has more space. White is controlling, I think, more squares on the opponent's side of the board than black is. But other than that, I'm not sure how the... One advantage might be that black has developed 2 pieces, whereas white has all their pieces except 1 knight back here on the back rank. That might be part of it. Okay, let's see what she plays. She plays the best move, the engine move. Okay, I guess that puts an extra defender on this pawn, which is already fairly well defended. It gets the bishop off the back rank. Oh, because if you had played this knight here to d2, that would have blocked the bishop in. So I guess it's okay. It makes sense to move the bishop first. Also, this bishop helps guard the f pawn in case you're about to castle and somebody tries to come in on the king side, I guess. Also, if Caruana captures the e pawn, the recapture will be a discovered attack against the queen. Okay, I get that, I think. Let's see. Queen to c7 is the only move that maintains black's slight advantage. What does queen to... Well, queen to c7 gets you out of this discovered attack. I understand that. Also a5, I guess attempting to break open this area right here. What does Caruana plays bishop to d7? What does that do? Oh, that prepares castling here, perhaps? And prepares to move a piece this way, maybe? Because it was already guarding this pawn, so it can't be about that. It was already guarding this weak e-pawn, which nothing else was guarding at that moment. But the bishop was already guarding it, so the bishop move didn't have anything to do with that. But maybe preparing this way, maybe preparing to castle. Not sure. Okay, she played Stockfish's best move here, too. That knight's not really going anywhere, is it? In London's, which I have been trying to play and trying to learn, this knight move makes a lot of sense because you're often preparing to play c3, and c4, I mean, and this knight protects c4. You're also often trying to play e4, and the knight protects that square too. But here, I don't know that it makes any sense other than a piece development. It adds some defense to this knight, but no one's coming after that knight right now. Let's see. Again, his best move is this. Let's see if he plays it. Yes. Okay. And again, I do understand that. It gets the queen out of this discovered attack in case you want to attack here. So when this pawn moves, this bishop doesn't have anything to point at over there. So that queen moves makes sense. Also, it adds a layer of protection here. The knight is also pointing at that square. And we have only 2 pieces pointing at that square right now. Maybe it's time to point another piece at it? I really don't know. G3. Okay, it doesn't... Stockfish does not want this bishop to develop to e2 now. It did earlier, said that was cool, but now it wants to move the g-pawn and put this bishop here. So you can go ahead and castle, I assume. It also saying a4. Maybe preparing b5. Oh, and the move I said. That's the 3rd best move. Okay, I don't feel so dumb then. Because black has just added an extra attacker on the e-pawn. And this adds an extra defender. Okay. What does Polgar plays? Oh, she plays b5 now. I had guessed that's what a4 was preparing, but since the knight can't attack diagonally, why not play b5 now? But now doesn't the knight just go here? To a5? Oh, no, that's not one of the top moves. Stockfish says, bring it back here, and you have an advantage. Bring it back here, and you have an advantage. But put it back where it came from, and that's not good. What does Caruana... Okay, he did that, but that wasn't great. Now she plays a4. locking it in, because now that the knight's out of the way, the bishop is hitting it. Okay, gaining more space as well. Now these pawns are controlling 4 squares on the 6th rank. And we're also controlling several squares on the 5th rank. And as well as this bishop is pointing down here. And if that pawn ever moves all the way that way. Okay, so she's definitely gaining space. I understand that space is a huge deal. There haven't been any captures yet, and we're on move 11. Okay. I think in my games we almost always have a capture before this point. All right. He's been prepping to castle pretty hard. He probably should here, and I see that that's what Stockfish recommends. Let's see. Okay. Not sure if I would want to castle into this pawn pressure, but that's what Stockfish said. We've got pawns getting pretty close to breaking through here, but I guess there's not really an attack right now. This pawn can't advance. And since that one can't advance, it can't protect the advance of the B pawn. So I guess they're kind of stuck right now. But they do prevent black from doing much here, like moving this knight back. Like, where can that knight go now? That knight's stuck. But we can't get to it. It can come in here. I don't know. But we can't get to it. It's okay right now. Okay, again, Stockfish wants her to play g3, h4, or bishop to f4. Again, that move that I had suggested. Okay. Well, let's see what she does. She plays g3, I suppose, preparing the fianchetto on the king side. I'm trying to understand Stockfish's suggestion of bishop to e8, but I mean, the f-pawn has moved, so it makes sense to put something on that diagonal, I suppose. Well, because now that you've castled over here, and your pawns are locked in through the center and queen side, I guess it makes sense to start trying to reroute an attack over here somehow. Also, maybe pawn advances at some point, but no. Just bishop to e8 right now. And then after that it says bishop to f7. Okay. Well, let's see. What would I play if I am Judit Polgar playing with the white? Well, we just moved this g-pawn. Doesn't it make sense to play here? Okay, but it's his turn. Let's see what he does. He moves the knight out. I guess maybe preparing knight to f5, which would attack this bishop. Also from there, maybe you can come back here and reroute to g4, perhaps. This position looks really locked up to me, and I'm not sure. I don't know what I would do here. Would I take this pawn? That's not in Stockfish's suggestions. As I said already, I would fianchetto because I've just moved this pawn. But Stockfish says h4. Is this because we're seeing their mobilization over here, the possibilities of bringing these pieces in, and we want to try to stop that? We already have a space advantage on the queen side and in the center. Maybe this tries to take a space advantage on the king side. What does she play? h4. I don't think I would have played that then. Maybe I will now that I've seen a master play it and that Stockfish recommended it. Also, I'm probably not going to end up in one of these positions because of the openings that I play, but it's interesting nonetheless. This does control more space on the king side. Also, I suppose if this pawn ever takes or advances, that the h-pawn provides an outpost for the knight or the bishop to go to g5. Not quite an outpost yet because their h-pawn can still come. Let's see. What does Caruana play? Does he play one of the best moves? Again, it's saying bishop to e8. It's also suggesting rook to g8. I have no idea why, other than to push the g-pawn maybe? Or rook to e8. That one makes even less sense to me. That would block the rerouting of your bishop, and it doesn't point at anything. Okay, what does Caruana play? Does not play one of the top moves. But I suppose wanting to stop this, but now, okay, what I just said earlier, if this pawn ever takes or advances, now white has the possibility of having an outpost square on g5 if that black f pawn ever moves, because this h pawn is no longer back here to be able to move forward and hit that square. Okay, maybe that's why it wasn't listed as one of the top moves. Okay. Stockfish wants this. I guess because the king is still lined up on that diagonal, perhaps. Also, this pawn, if I remember how International Master Jeremy Silman explained pawn structures in one of the books that I recently read a month or two ago, this pawn is considered a backward pawn right now because it doesn't have other pawns back here that can support it, because the f pawn has already moved and this pawn can't move. Now it could someday if we ever take this, but that pawn is a weakness, is if I understood that right, those lessons. So that makes sense. Not only are you putting pressure on this weakness, but you're also lining up your bishop with the king. Okay, so I understand bishop to h3. Rook to a2. Not sure I understand that. Okay, maybe so, because earlier we had talked about the possibility of black's knight coming in to b3, and if you move rook to a2, then it's not in danger from the b3 knight, if the knight ever comes. But that doesn't make that much sense to me to do it now. It makes more sense to do it after they move that. But prophylactic move, perhaps. And queen to e2. We talked about this in one of the other master games that I went through. My Stockfish is always suggesting to me queen to e2, but what does that do? What does that do? It doesn't change anything about this diagonal because the queen's already on that diagonal. But it takes the queen off of this diagonal, which I don't know if you want it on that one or not. I could understand maybe c2 because this pawn's, nobody's looking at that pawn right now. It's our pawn weakness, our backward pawn. And we also, wouldn't we want to get behind that in case there is ever this, and this knight, and this pawn hits, and then we can capture there with our queen, and then be able to put the rook here lined up with their king and queen over there. I don't know. What does Miss Polgar... Okay, I feel justified. I feel justified because the computer was saying moves I don't understand. Apparently she didn't understand them either, but she did understand what I did, which... Not that this puts me on par with any grandmasters. I believe Judit Polgar was one of the earliest, not the first, but one of the earliest or youngest women grandmasters, or I say female because I don't think she was an adult yet at the time. I'd have to look that up to be sure. But yeah, okay, so she made a move that I would have made. Okay, nice. Now, Caruana plays bishop to e8, which Stockfish has been suggesting repeatedly. Oh, but the advantage has slipped. It's because this wasn't the greatest move. So Stockfish is now saying we're much closer to equality again. Okay, but I do understand that move. We talked about that earlier. You're wanting to attack or at least defend on the king side. But wait, now nothing's defending this pawn. Now bishop h3 makes a lot more sense, and that's what Stockfish is suggesting. She plays it. Okay. Makes sense. Backward pawn is hit. I think you either have to move the king here or move the bishop to protect that pawn from the other side. because you moved the bishop in the first place in order to get on this diagonal. So if you want to stay on that diagonal but also guard the pawn, you have to go here. Going back doesn't make any sense. If at all possible, you shouldn't make a move that you then just have to reverse if you can help it. Oh, but it says queen to d7 is what Stockfish is saying, or bishop to f7. Or queen to b6 also guards that pawn. Okay, what? He makes the top move. Well, there's a reason. I believe this was from 8 years ago, but I think... Oh, you know what? I just saw the date. It was 8 years ago today. That was purely an accident. 8 years ago today. All right. Well, he did make Stockfish's best move, but he's currently, as we speak, playing in the candidates tournament for a chance at the next World Championship match. And there's a reason for that. Okay. Well, I did understand that you have to defend that pawn. What is her best move is to castle now, or very close is put the queen back. Stockfish does not like the queen here for some reason. Or put it over there, even. That doesn't make sense to me. Obviously, it makes sense to somebody, but because from here, we're guarding that square for a possible knight trade on that square on b3. We're guarding this pawn in case we ever need to push it at some point. I don't understand what a2 does. That just points at this line of pawns here. Are we thinking that we're going to chip away at it at some point? And we don't need anything behind the a pawn. Yeah, I don't understand that suggestion at all. Or d1 for that matter. We just moved the queen there. It doesn't make sense to move it back. Castling makes sense. What does she do? Tries to... Okay, she's breaking open the queen side, which now the king has castled, so it's also the king side to some degree. Now, oh, because the queen moved over to protect this pawn, so nothing's guarding that square except this pawn, so she's going to double the pawns around the king. Maybe that's why... Okay. Maybe that's why the computer was suggesting a2, knowing that you wanted to do this at some point. I don't know, but she's giving up this pawn for the chance to double the pawn structure. But can't he just move forward? Okay, that's what Stockfish is suggesting, just to move forward, and is that what he does? Yeah. That makes more sense to me. It does create a problem here in that the king can never escape to that square as long... But this pawn's not guarded. They can get rid of it, right? I don't know. Maybe not so easily. Stockfish does not want the queen on c2 at all. Move it back. Maybe one of you higher rated players in my audience, if you've made it this far in the video, can explain to me what is so bad about the queen being here that Stockfish keeps saying, get off of that square. It's not like the bishop can challenge us. We would just take it. Nothing can challenge this queen here. I mean, eventually, but not anytime soon. Okay, does she castle now? Let's see. No. Oh, we finally took the f-pawn. This tension has been here a long time. Finally took the f-pawn. I assume, yeah, take back. That's what Stockfish says. That's the obvious move. Okay. I assume take back. That leaves both of these... very short diagonals open for these bishops to get them pointed out here. It also opens a file for the rook to point through this way if she ever castles. Is she ever going to castle? I don't know. Oh, wow. Now, look at Stockfish. The second and the third suggestion are for her to castle. And again, first suggestion, get the queen off of that square. I'm flabbergasted by that. Now it's saying b2. Earlier it was saying to put it on a2, put it back on d1. And when it was on d1, it kept saying to put it on e2, but it definitely does not like the queen here at all. What does Miss Polgar do? Bishop to f4. Oh, because we've moved our pawn. That pawn that was sitting here on e5 is gone now. So we're creating a threat through this diagonal. I don't know why the eval bar dropped there. That makes sense to me. Stockfish wants this bishop here, or this rook here, which we talked about earlier. Now that the pawn exchange happened, we've opened some space for these undeveloped pieces. They haven't moved the entire game. Stockfish wants to move them now, either here, or knight a to c6. Oh, because the pawn moved forward, we can put the knight back. Let's see which one of those he does. Wait. I misread Stockfish. That's not g6, that's g7. He made the Stockfish top move. Bishop to g6. Okay, makes sense. I said that the queen would just take it earlier, but this knight is guarding that square. This knight is guarding g6. So that's okay. That's why Stockfish wanted the queen off of this square. Now b2 is the best place, but d1 is all right. a2 is still in the cards. She chooses b2. Yeah, earlier I said that wouldn't work, but I wasn't seeing the knight guards that. Okay. What is it with me and not seeing where pieces can go and protect? Okay. Well, it makes sense. That's why Stockfish didn't want the queen there. But still, it's an empty one-move threat, isn't it? And the queen just steps aside, and nothing's putting it in danger here. I don't know. Bishop to d3. Oh, it wants him to put his bishop all the way down into the middle of White's territory. Nice. That would prevent castling well, no, it wouldn't prevent castling on that side. But it's definitely a nice outpost square for the bishop. Let's see if he sees that. Other moves are, as previously suggested, here or here, trying to trade off these two bishops. Let's see. He finds that top Stockfish move. So Caruana is developing a pretty solid advantage here, according to the engine. But as a player, a low-rated player, like less than half of the rating of these people, I do know that that's not good for White. But otherwise, like, wait, have we still not captured any? Okay, we did capture one pawn each. There's only been one capture by each player so far in this game at move 19. But it looks like we have space. We're controlling important squares on the king side, or, well, where the king is now. And on the original king side, we're pointing at their backward pawn. I don't know that alone would tell me that I'm in a really bad situation. I do know that, maybe I should have castled a few moves ago when before that bishop got there. Maybe. Okay. Let's see. What does she play? Bishop to e5 is recommended. Am I reading that right? I know I missed the bishop square earlier, but it wants her to play bishop to e5. Wouldn't they just take? It says they wouldn't, but I'm not sure about that. Not sure about that at all. Okay. I mean, to me, if I'm going to move that bishop, it makes more sense to put it there. Right? He got an outpost over here on my side. I'm going to get an outpost on his side. Oh, that's what she played. That wasn't one of Stockfish's moves. That's twice now that I didn't understand Stockfish's move, but she played what I thought. Okay. Maybe I have the mind of a Scandinavian woman, which doesn't bother me. I would have moved it there just because, what are they going to root it out with? I think that means the rook has to move now, doesn't it? Yeah, pretty sure. Only move that maintains his advantage, which again, I'm still not sure I understand why the computer is rating him so high at this point. Okay, I also see that I'm getting out of time here. I've gone on and on. But I'm trying to understand these moves. But I am encouraged that twice she played the move that I would have played, even though it wasn't a Stockfish recommendation. Now it says knight to g1. That's what Stockfish wants her to do. Or bishop to f1. Oh, trying to trade out. Oh, get rid of that bishop because that bishop's a problem. I get that. Okay. What does she play? Okay. Don't know that I would have seen that move. I still don't think white's as bad as Stockfish is making out. But once the rook over here, ready to penetrate, I guess, and prevent this pawn from any forward motion ever. Let's see. It wants bishop to... Okay, it wants to move the bishop back now to f5. Is what it wants him to do. Is that what he did? Oh, no, it's Stockfish is still thinking. It just changed. Knight a to c6. It wants to put the knight back. Doesn't that allow this pawn to finally solidify this position? I don't know. What does Mr. Caruana play? Knight to f5. Preventing the bishop's return. Oh, he's committed to having this bishop down here. Okay. And Stockfish is saying knight to f1. Oh, knight to e1. Okay, because now the bishop can't escape, can it? Right, because if it goes there, the knight gets it. Okay. Let's see, does she... Yes, that's exactly what she played. Okay. So that bishop has to do what now? Oh, it doesn't. It says leave the bishop. Stockfish says ignore the bishop, play knight to d6. Aiming for an outpost here, maybe? Okay, what does Caruana play? Bishop to d6. Okay, the last two turns, the engine wanted one minor piece on a certain square, and he put a different minor piece on that same square. That's twice in a row that happened. Okay. Oh, but now they're nearly even. Take this bishop now is what Stockfish is saying. Is that what she does? Yes. Okay, that makes sense. That's the whole reason you put the knight down there in the first place. I assume take back. Yeah, only move that's not a blunder. Not a, you know. So obviously he would find that. Now what? Bishop capture. Okay, it went, whoops. Stockfish wants this. Or rook to e1. I guess because that pawn's still weak and the rook is behind it, maybe. And we still have this tension here. What do you want to do about that? If he ever takes here, then we're losing a pawn. Let's see what... It wants this. What did she do? Is that right? That's what it says. She played queen to b1. I guess going after this pawn? Because Caruana cannot defend it. And he's about to pick up an extra pawn here is what Stockfish is saying he should do. Take this now. Oh, and then just leave the pawn there? Okay. What does he do? He plays knight to c4. I don't know if that was one of the top moves or not. I only looked at the top one because I'm trying to speed this up. But we're looking for a knight trade here, I guess. And then that would bring the d-pawn to the c-file to protect this advanced d-pawn. Right? It takes the back d-pawn here. That's if she trades. What does Stockfish want? Stockfish wants, again, rook to a2. We saw that earlier. For some reason, I'm still not sure what that does. And it still wants this. What does she do? She takes the knight. I understand why the Stockfish numbers dropped, because now look at that. I mean, only one of them is a passed pawn, but it's protected right in there. And that pawn is guarding two important squares here. Wow. Also, we're able to chip away at the... Well, I mean, she has a passed pawn too, technically. But it's not going anywhere, I don't think. I don't know. All right, Stockfish is still thinking, but it wants... Now it wants her to put the queen on a2 to hit the back pawn, maybe. Oh, no, it's changed its mind again. Rook to e1. Bishop captures d6. Oh, it's as if we're going to have this trade anyway. Might as well initiate it ourselves. That's what... Okay. Let's see what she does. She did not do any of those things. Okay. I don't know that I would have seen this. I think I probably wouldn't have done Stockfish's recommendation either, but I mean, that's a normal position for a fianchettoed bishop, but what are we pointing at? I guess here? I don't think, is anything coming there soon? I don't understand that move. Next is bishop captures c7, which Stockfish has been suggesting a lot. He doesn't play it. He tries to break open the center. But that gives away some of his advantage. Again, it wants her to play queen to a2, which I still don't understand, but it's other moves are blunders compared to it. That's 3 points better than anything else. And that's what she played. She saw that this pawn is not only undefended, but I think it's indefensible. This pawn can't come to its aid. I mean, I guess the queen can. But no, Stockfish is still saying his only move to maintain the advantage is to take that bishop now. And let this pawn go. Let's see. That's what he does. Now I'm startled by Stockfish's recommendation here to just let your bishop go and take this pawn now. Okay, but I see it because the bishop is pinned. And you already have the pressure on the pinned piece, I guess. Because now, with this bishop out of the way, I guess the queen, well, not right now, but the queen maybe could come to the aid of the pawn from this way. So you have to take this one now. And if you take it now, then you can always take this later. Okay, I get that. Does she play it? Yes, okay. And his only move, again, he only has one move to maintain the advantage, is knight to d6. Does he find it? And why does that maintain the advantage? Well, it puts a tempo on the queen. Oh, but it gives her this pawn, which I guess she was going to take anyway. Is that what he does? He does that. Oh, wow. Queen, it doesn't say to take this pawn. It says to go there now with the queen. Well, you have to move the queen. I guess that's elementary here. You have to move the queen. Might as well take a bishop with it. I assume at that point the queen would take back and you would take back with your pawn. And then it doesn't, I don't know, maybe lose that pawn too. But if you do this, then you lose that pawn and your bishop's already gone. She's down a piece right now. Does she find that? No. Oh my goodness. Okay. E4. To continue locking in this. That's why Stockfish is saying e4, but it also is suggesting just go ahead and take this. Which I'm not... this is getting pretty complicated to me. I don't know that I would have found that either, which she didn't. I think I would have taken that pawn, but then I would have ended up down a bishop over here. Let's see what he plays. He moves it forward, which was one of the top moves. What does she play? Okay, earlier it was suggesting that, but it wasn't suggesting that now. Huh. And now she's down a ton. I thought she won this game. Let's see. He plays the best move, having a nice little pawn chain here, because now this pressure means nothing. Now that you've got this f-pawn behind it. Wow. Okay. Now she needs to just go ahead and take the bishop. Is that what she does? No. She had just moved this here earlier. Now she's moving it back. Okay, because now that's a backward pawn, I guess. But it's well protected. Not sure what that was about. Does he play one of his best moves? Yes, he does. Protecting that backward pawn 3 ways. Okay. Her best move now is to take this bishop. Does she do it? No. Oh my goodness. And sorry, we're at 40 minutes here, so I'm going to try to move more quickly. But I'm thrown off. I don't think I would have played that here. I've trapped my queen in this box of... I guess it's not really dangerous yet, but it could be soon. What is she planning? I mean, because we still have this. She's just deciding not to do it. Okay, his best move here is queen to c6. Is that what he plays? That wasn't one of the top moves, and he's lost half his advantage. Can we still do this? Oh, no, now it's back to saying that queen takes is better. Which one does she do? Oh, no, no. It's changing. It's still thinking. Stockfish is still thinking. Which one's better? Okay, see, I don't feel so bad as a human if I can't decide which of these is better, because Stockfish can't decide that either. Stockfish is having to think about it. It's still running. Although it's looking more and more like the queen is the best solution. But it's still close. Okay, what happens? She takes with the pawn. And that's check. Stockfish wants him to move the king out of the way, but it's also not bad to take with the queen. Which one does he do? He takes with the queen. Obviously here you have to take with the... I assume you take with the queen now. Queen trade, yes. And then that's almost forced to take back. I know it's not exactly forced, but it would be ridiculous not to. Yeah, okay. Now what does she do? Are they even on material? They're now even on material again. Okay, because she was down a piece for, what, 8 moves? Something like that. Rook to c1. What about rooks belong on open files? It wants it behind that pawn. Oh, because that pawn's hanging. But couldn't you protect that by moving it forward? That's another possibility. Which one does she play? She puts the rook behind the not quite passed pawn. But now it can move forward. Let's see. It wants him to play f4, king c6. Not sure about that move, but it takes away most of his advantage. Oh, maybe because he saw she was about to push this pawn, but that's not one of her suggested moves right now. Wow, that bishop's getting a lot of activity over here. Maybe it's got a Fitbit. Bishop's with a Fitbit here. Are we about to push the f pawn here to break open this little pawn chain? Is that what that's about? Okay, he needs to play rook to d8. Oh, because this pawn's hanging now. Our d pawn is unguarded. Okay, he's just rerouted his knight this way. And now we're near equality. She just needs to play a5. She did not play a5. She gave away that pawn. Just gave it away. And allowing a passed pawn here. And that is his best move by far. Is that what he plays? Well, I assume so. That's the whole reason he did this anyway, right? Why didn't she play a5? I have no idea. That's interesting. I think we all would have seen a5 there. I don't know. Maybe she was low on time. This was Blitz after all. Okay. And I'm commentating on it as if it were a classical game. Okay, c5 is the best move, and that's what she plays here. I think that was fairly obvious. We have to protect it. But now nobody... How do we protect this pawn? And he needs to play a5 here, but or knight to b2. What does that do? Don't know. Okay, that's what he was supposed to have played earlier, but now it's no good. Why is that so bad? Is it because now we can protect it here? That's what, oh wow, Stockfish is sneaky. That's why Stockfish wanted knight to b2 to protect the c4 square. Does she see it? Of course she does here. And now she has the advantage on move 39. Now he plays knight to b2, but it doesn't help because she can play rook to b4. Where does that knight go? The knight's trapped. Right? It can't go anywhere. The knight is lost. That's why she's up by 2, I guess. 2 point something. He needs to play a5. Does he find it? Yes. Okay. Now we take the knight, I assume. Right? Okay, rook captures b2. Nothing else makes sense. She's up a piece. Wow. What does he do? Okay. He's no longer guarding... she's no longer guarding the d-pawn, so now Caruana can take it. That was the best move on Stockfish. Now it's ready. Stockfish is ready to break things open right here. But she plays the third best move, lining up a battery against this exposed king. Okay. Still has the advantage. He needs to play rook to c4 here. Which, doesn't that just give up a rook and a pawn? And she's already up slightly on material? I don't know. Does he do it? No. He plays king to c6. I guess coming after this pawn. Okay, now it's ready to check. Stockfish has said, let's do this now. But then wouldn't the king just capture that? What does she play? Oh, she takes the pawn, which turns out to not be great. For some reason, it wanted to check. Why, though? I understand her move here better than I understand Stockfish's move. Because if you did what Stockfish wanted, the king just takes this pawn. Here, I anticipate the king taking that pawn, and I just go ahead and take theirs. So it comes out even if he does take the pawn. But he doesn't. Okay? King to e3 is her best move now. Protecting against check, I guess? Or r7 to b2. Oh, also protecting against check. Or just check. Why not just check? Which one does she do? She does the wrong one and loses all her advantage. Why is that? Is that because the rook can go around behind now? Yes, it's because the rook can go around behind, which he did not do. I hope you've stuck with me so far, but that makes me feel really good that I saw Stockfish's top move and Caruana did not. Okay, and I saw it in a couple of seconds, but maybe they were down to 0.9 or something. I don't know. I don't know. Because the timestamps aren't included on this. Now does she play rook to f7? Oh, rook to f7, getting behind this pawn. Is that what she does? No, now she plays f3, which Stockfish wanted a long time ago, but it didn't want now. And now we're near equality again. But he has to find g8. Does he? No, he takes that pawn. Oh my goodness. Now she has to get over here behind this pawn. But what does she do? Does she do that? No. Okay, I assume he takes back. Yes. Now do we take that? No, we don't, because the rook's there. Right? Yeah. Stockfish says no. What? She plays... She checks. I guess one of these, right? No. Yeah, king to d6 is one of the top two moves, or king to d5. For some reason, it's really bad to go to d4. Not sure exactly why. He played king to d4. Maybe he, like me, did not understand why that was so bad. These two were just fine. It said very near equality, but this is a huge blunder. If she plays rook to e7, what does... Oh, because from e7, they're both, the bishop and the rook, are hitting this pawn. Maybe. And she found it. Now what does he do? Oh, now he gets this king out of the way, but now it's too late. Now it says rook captures e4, but she didn't find it. Wait, I don't get it either. Hold on. That's what it said. Stockfish says this is best by far, but now don't you do this? You just give up our rook. Oh, Stockfish is evil. Because the king is also guarding that. It says just to give up the rook. And then get in front of this passed pawn. Because you can check from the side and there's nothing they can do about it. Maybe. I don't know. But she moved her king there, seeing that black had more defenders on that pawn. That makes sense to me. Her move makes sense. Okay. His only move that maintains equality is rook to g8. And I don't know why. Did he know why? No, he did not know why. He did not understand the position at all. But now he's removed one of the defenders of this pawn. She's added an attacker to it by moving this king over here. And she takes it. Okay, does he take back with the rook? What does he do? No, it says rook a1 is his best move. Okay, but he's done for at this point. He pushed his pawn, which is better for her. Why? Why? Rook e5 check. Where's e5? Does she find that? Also, rook c2 isn't bad. What does she do? Rook c2. Okay. She's not worried about this pawn as long as she can check. The king goes away, and that turned out to not be great at all. She finds the best move. Rook to e6 check. The king can't come back to the c file because of this rook. It can't go that way because of the bishop. Can't go here because of the rook. So it's left with only 2 legal moves. Or blocking with the rook, which that would be silly. What does Caruana chooses? That one, which turns out to be one of the worst ones. Now, rook to e7 check leads to a direct mating sequence, and everything else goes to equality. What does she do? She blunders it. But that leads to, right? Caruana is forced to b8, right? Because our bishop covers the corner. Okay. Rook to b7 check was her best move. It's protected by the bishop. And that forces him one way or the other. Oh, one way's... Oh, wow. c8's equality and a8 is mate in one. Surely he chose c8. Okay. And now she has to play rook to a6. Oh, to come around this way. Or to try, but this is close to promotion. What does she do? She loses. Wait, again, I thought she won this game. Now, if he will play rook to d3, he wins outright. What? That's not what he found, because I can see the move order there. But how does that win? Don't you? Oh, no, you don't just lose a rook because then there's a promotion. Oh, Stockfish saw this, but Caruana played that there, which turns out to not be good because king to f2, which she found. I think I would have just dropped here. Oh, to protect this pawn? Maybe? Wait, but now he can promote. He has to find rook f8 check. Is that what he plays? No. Oh, he was protecting against checkmate. Okay. But now she has mate anyway. Does she find it? Bishop to h3, yes. You have to block with the other rook. Oh my goodness. And she takes it. And he resigned. Okay, that was exciting, but I've gone on nearly an hour, and I apologize for how long that took, but there was a lot to understand in this position, or in these positions, and I was unfamiliar with most of them because I don't play the French or against the French. But I had a few encouraging moments in there where, in one case, I found a move that was Stockfish's top move that Caruana did not find. Granted, it was Blitz. And twice, I couldn't find Stockfish's best move, but the move that I thought was best, Polgar did exactly what I thought was best, so that made me feel better, both those situations. And I understood a lot of the rest of it. So I'm going to keep doing this when I have time. Thank you for sticking with me. We'll see you next time.